Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hello.
our CIC's first panel discussion. You will be seeing more of these this year. My name is Amanda. I am the Director of External Training here at Contractor in Charge. And on our panel today, we have Lynn. Lynn, go ahead and give a little wave. She is the owner and founder of Contractor in Charge. We have Danielle Bardis. Danielle, if you want to wave in case
Hello.
you
It's
can't
nice
see
to
the
see
screen.
everybody.
Yes, and Danielle is our head of sales and marketing here at Contractor in Charge. And bringing the team home, we have Vicky. Vicky is the director of call center ops and support. So, Vicky.
Hello, everyone.
Today, our topic that we're excited to bring to you all is the 5 roles within the call center. And Lynn, we're going to start with you because you are the brains behind all of this. So, Lynn, I'm going to let you do the honors and introduce the 5 roles and what those 5 roles are that we say should exist in a call center.
Sure. So remember, team, that we started with 4 and we recently added 5, right? Or one more to make it 5. So the 4 roles we started with, which are the fundamentals and the essentials, are your leads, qualification, and booking. Role number 1. Leads cost a lot of money. They need to have a focus on the qualification and booking of them. The second one is customer service. Customer service, those questions that are coming from different directions. Is my technician going to be arriving on time? Is the part that was ordered for my job available, and can my job be booked? Third one, field and dispatch. Field and dispatch, the air traffic controller of the biz, as we would say. The one who is really looking at sense of urgency, priority of schedule, routing, managing the technicians so that they're being efficient and productive in delivering on-time services to the customers that our clients serve. Fourth, inside sales. Too often we forget this one. What does that mean? That means that it's actively being worked every day, every week, every month. The follow-ups on estimates, rehash of no service sold, customers who haven't been in contact with your company in a while, and doing a happy call and a check-in, as well as, and let's not forget, new promotions, changes in your business. Third one would be more along the lines of memberships and loyalty. So reminding them who you are, why you are there for them, for their home services needs. And the fifth role that we've just added, and we're just going to kind of call it what we call it today, which is AI, the one that everybody's trying to
Oh,
figure out what
AI.
to do with, right? So those are the 5 roles that we're going to talk about today.
So there's our introduction of them. Lynn, you've been in the game a long time here and in the field. So what did you see with the traditional CSR model or how people were running the call centers that led you to the creation of these specialized roles?
Well, the irony of it is that our company provides rollover and after hour services. So it really got me to thinking, why do we get rollover calls? Well, it all comes down to our clients tend to lack a focus on the specialties or the roles, the job roles and responsibilities. And when somebody's answering a customer service call, which by the way, on hand usually takes longer than a call booking, you have got multiple call bookings coming in that go to abandon or voicemail or somewhere else, call it a third party. And that's what really got me to think about it. We've already in this industry, I think, pretty much carved out that a dispatcher is certainly a specialty, even though in smaller companies, you'll see that it's a shared responsibility between a CSR and a dispatcher. But again, if you're working with a technician in the field and the phone's ringing, what is that distraction actually doing to 2 things? One, the productivity of the field. The second one is the loss or the potential not focus on the lead that you need to be focusing on. So I always think about these roles as minimizing cost and maximizing the customer experience. This is really about maximizing the customer experience. Inside sales, we see this all the time in our conversations with our clients, they take their key resources off of inbound calls and put them on outbound. Okay. And then we get the inbound calls. It's like, make your mind up, figure this out, right? So that's really what triggered it. And it also triggered it on our years of experience of collecting data, where we see a lot of, I'll call it rework, that's caused by messages because customer service calls have to be returned. We're not empowered to answer those questions, rightfully so. And that rework costs money and it frustrates customers. So we saw this, and so it was really about taking a step back and saying, okay, what is it that we're doing that's causing all of these processes, and not necessarily making them more efficient and more streamlined, and more importantly, not focusing on the customers. So
Yeah.
that's what really made me take a step back and say, what should be the roles that we have in our internal operations for this particular function in our business?
And I think that's the key thing right there. This comes from experience. It's not like we woke up one day and said, let's put something on a
Right.
whiteboard. This
Let's
comes
throw it
from
out there.
this comes
Comes
from
from
real life
practice.
experience and forming this concept and idea. Now, a lot of times people will ask, well, what size company do I have to be to have all these roles? And really that's kind of the wrong question or approach to be thinking about it. Lynn, can you tell us how we should be thinking about these roles? And
It's not really about size. It's really about the roles are all relevant to any size business. Whether you are a small company with yourself or a couple of other technicians, or you are a very large company with 100 technicians, it doesn't matter. The roles are all relevant to the internal operations and success of your business. These are all core roles and responsibilities that have to be focused on, as well as managed, hired, and trained. It's just that simple. So the question is, how do you manage all those roles and responsibilities in different size companies? That's a different, because it's a budget question and it's also a hiring question. So
Yes.
that's really more of the question, in my opinion.
Which will be great to have Vicky and Danielle kind of speak to that as we go on today, because Vicky's, if you've never met Vicky, everyone, she's a wizard on Excel, and she makes the data match what needs to be done. So she'll give some really great insights as we go further today.
Yes.
So let's kind of dive into these specific roles and what it looks like and what we need to be thinking about. So let's start with the one probably most of us are very familiar with, the booking agent. We care about that because that's what brings money into our business and gets that started. So Vicky, you are our call center director of our call center here. So, and we do booking. So I'm going to start with you on this. What do you feel like a booking agent's responsibilities are, and what have you seen with the experience of booking agents at Contractor in Charge?
You know, looking at Contractor in Charge and looking what, a booking agent's responsibility is, it's honestly is to receive that call in a timely manner. It is to listen to and engage with the caller. It's to qualify that call, and ultimately it is to book the call. That is their responsibility. First and foremost, what's the experience, that we've had here at Contractor in Charge? I can tell you that months ago, we used to have all of our agents actually answering all calls. So like Lynn alluded to earlier, customer service calls, typically take longer than booking calls. Obviously doing my thing, analyzing the data. That's what I do, right? We determined, it is best to have these roles separated. So what we've done in Contractor in Charge is separate those roles. So we have customer support roles and we have, the booking agent roles. What has that done for us? A lot of things. It has, one, decreased our speed of answer, which is amazing. It has increased our bookability rate because lack of errors. So you've got the booking agent actually concentrating on their specific task, which is qualifying and booking that calls. And it's a win-win, not only for Contractor in Charge, but for our clients.
And Vicki, do you feel like switching that over and kind of separating those roles, do you think that it's made the agents that are doing booking as well as customer service stronger in what they're doing? I think in a
Absolutely.
way it helps them a lot focus on, I know that I am intended to get this, and this is my sole focus is just to schedule appointments and handle customer requests for appointments. And this is my sole focus is to take a message and make sure I get the right information down. I think that is huge. When I was
It
an agent,
is. It
we did everything.
100% is, Danielle. One of the things that, the feedback that we have gotten from our agents is they feel more confident in their
Mhm.
role, which increased our overall morale,
Yeah.
and to me, that's a huge thing. When you are happy to come to your job and do it to the best of your ability, and we can do that by separating those two roles, and they have a clear expectation of what they're doing when they come into to work every single day, and that's to book the job or that's the customer service role. They know a defined role in what they're doing, and like I said, it's been a win-win for not only for Contractor in Charge, but our clients that hire us to book those jobs.
Absolutely. So, Lynn, you have a very heavy accounting background. In fact, Contractor in Charge has an accounting section here. So let's talk about that bookability. Vicki talked about making sure the call is booked, qualified. That's their main role responsibility. What does that do on the back end side, the revenue? Obviously, you're going to get the revenue from getting more book calls, but let's talk about the cost of a lead and what happens there when you're missing those calls.
Well, there's actually two parts, Amanda. One is the cost of the lead, right? Cost of the leads. What we tend to see on the financial side of the business is that our clients overspend to get leads so they have enough to book against the capacity that they have available. If you have a concentration on leads, qualifying and booking appointments, two things happen. One, you have the opportunity to reduce the spend on leads. Cost of acquisition goes down. And the second thing, that since you've got resources who really have the aptitude and the attitude to do this particular function, they're going to do it with a higher degree and probability of being convertible to a sale. So it's do I have any empirical data on that? No, that is a real big hypothesis. But being in this business for many, many years and looking at what we've done at Contractor in Charge to shift from being like everybody else, so being a one-stop shop for that resource to do everything, and to see the shift that has happened in our internal numbers from what Vicki points out, the booking going up, the morale of the folks being better. Our training is so much more effective. So
Yeah.
we train about qualifying and booking calls. That's our training. The other thing, being in offices for years, not everybody likes to book calls. Not everybody likes to do customer service. They certainly have different, those resources have different aptitudes and attitudes about these positions. And a dispatcher is a whole thing on its own, right?
Yes.
So inside sales, completely. I can tell you for a fact that people that do inbound calls do not like to do outbound calls. That's a fact.
Especially
Yes,
true outbound.
very rare to
I
find the
think a
combo.
lot of
That's right.
times outbound kind of gets lumped into that like maintenance category, warm leads where the customer already knows you, but it's not just that. And a lot of people are not comfortable making the initial call and do it, bother. They think they're bothering somebody, they're really not. But that is its own personality every single time. And if you get the wrong person doing it, you're not going to get the outcome you want either.
Well, and I just saw an interesting post the other day where it was an anonymous post, I believe, if I'm correct, but they had determined that their inside sales people, who, by the way, are quoted, were faking calls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so, if all areas that you can fake those quotas, that inside sales, if you don't know how to qualify the data that actually establishes those quotas are real or not real, that's a great area where they can cheat.
Yep.
If they don't like to do it and they don't have both a job satisfaction as well as, I would say, the right MO to do it, they will cheat. They will
Yeah.
find a way to skirt. So
You definitely have to have a certain personality to be that, outbound person, right?
you do. You have to. The other thing is your inside salesperson has to have some experience in the products and services
Mm-hmm.
that you are selling. So it's not just anybody who can be an inside salesperson. They have to understand the products and services and the customer experiences that your company is going to achieve to and have a goal to achieve to with your customers. So
Yeah.
that's a big piece to it. So they got to learn the ropes, but they also got to have that aptitude to do sales. Simple as that.
Absolutely. So since we're talking about inside sales there, let's go ahead and jump there and talk about that inside sales role. Um, what do you see? You're talking about personality, they're very different. What are some of those traits you're looking for in that inside sales rep?
Hey, Vicky, I'm going to kind of let you tee that one up, but we can all chime in. I mean, to me, it starts with just the idea that they're motivated by the end result. That's what and typically they're motivated by money.
Yeah.
Compensation is important to them.
It is. They're goal oriented people also. They're go getters, they're extrovert people. They want to beat what they did yesterday. It truly is. You're looking for somebody that is extremely outgoing when excuse me, when you're talking to them, you want to know, like in the past, what they've done. Look at what their future goals are. And, you're really having a conversation with them to see if they're the right person in that role. And you're truly looking for somebody that's, very competitive. I think is the best word for that. Competitive in the right way. I mean, they don't want to be hurtful, but competitive within themselves. Like I want to know that what I did yesterday, I'm doing 110%, better than that. I shine and myself sitting over here, sometimes, and that's the type of person that I'm looking for with inside sales.
The other part about an inside salesperson, too, that I think is really important is that, and we talk about this always in our training, is that they really are great active listeners. They
Mm-hmm.
are listening for cues. They are
Yep. They're
great at
listening for
that skill set. That is correct.
the why nots. They can fix it too.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
I know. I mean, even just being sales in general, you have money has to be a motivator. Numbers have to be a motivator. And then being able to see their progress. So if you don't have somebody that is motivated by watching their own success happen, they are not going to do good in inside sales or any sales focused position, because you have got to be your own cheerleader, but you also need to show everybody else why you're good at it. And if those kind of numbers don't make you excited, it's not going to be something where you get job satisfaction every day from closing that, that unsold estimate or selling that job that the technician fumbled on. Those
Yeah.
things are so big. And like I don't, obviously I don't do inside sales, but I do sales for us, and I am excited about my numbers every single day. And I will email you guys myself and be like, hey, look what I did. Here I am. See
Yeah.
me. Um,
But you know that
you have to have that kind of a personality though, and that kind of a driver, and you've got to have a really bubbly and open personality, but also come from a place of intelligence and make sure that you can speak well. And if you're not comfortable on an outbound call, or you're not comfortable in general speaking with somebody, knowing that your end goal is to get them to agree to purchase something,
Mhm.
you're going to come off as not confident, which then doesn't sell anything for you. And it's just, you have to have a sales mindset every single time, and not be somebody that's timid. I guess that's what I would
Yeah.
say for a
and,
personality.
and product knowledge.
Yeah.
You've got to understand what you're selling, right? Back to Lynn's point, the active listening. So if you don't know the products that you're selling, you can't have that potential of upselling right at that moment, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's definitely product knowledge has to be in that group when you're looking for somebody for inside sales.
I think all of that comes together because so many times people think, well, if I just give them a script and have them call off of this list, That's not
No,
it. There's
ma'am.
no personality. They
No.
can't handle when the curveball comes their way or any of that. So all those things we just talked about is really about being a person on the other end of the
Yeah.
phone and
And
not
it's having a conversation. I mean, it truly is having a conversation. You know, but having a conversation again, it goes back to all of the things that we just listed, and I truly believe that product knowledge is the biggest one, because if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to stumble, you're going to fumble, and the person on the other end is going to eventually hang up.
Yep.
That's right.
absolutely.
That's right.
So, Lynn, I want to talk about this question because it's one we hear a lot, where people will say, well, how many calls should my inside salesperson be making a day? And one of the things I've learned from you is that is not the question we should be asking. We got to look at that a little bit differently. So I learned so much when we had that conversation when I first came to Contractor in Charge. I'd love if you would share it with our audience here and kind of our mindset we have to go into.
So the answer is what it takes to keep the board full. I mean, that's the answer. So that isn't necessarily the same number every day. It just isn't. And the funnels that you have to work from aren't the same funnels for every day. So it depends on the strategy of filling the board. If it's a seasonal type situation and you're really truly trying to schedule tune-ups and maintenance calls, that's one strategy. So then you have to calculate, how many do I need to sell? And I always look at booked appointments like a sale. It's the first phase of the sale. And a good statistic to depend on, I believe, is 10 to 15% of the calls that you actually make that are truly bookable leads will be booked appointments. So that's a good starting point. So if I need, let's call it 15 jobs, 15 bookings, right? I probably have to make 150 calls. I probably have to make 150 calls. It's that simple. And there's dynamics around it, right?
Do you think that number is different if you're calling for like tune-ups with members and stuff where it's already a prepaid for preemptive service? Do you think it lowers that need to call that many people, or do you think it's the same number?
Well, I don't look at booking maintenance agreements for appointments with sales. Sorry.
No, me either. But just
So
out of curiosity,
I look
do you
at,
think if it's a warmer lead versus a cold lead, you have a different conversion?
I look at that as a touch point to a member that is loyal, and it's a different approach in its totality. It's one of probably 2 or 3 calls they should get in the year, not just that one. But certainly, if I'm taking my existing customer list that's not been touched for a couple of years, that having a good offer is essential in order to book the appointment. Otherwise, it's just another strange call. It's a touch point. So you have to have a good offer. And so, but yes, the answer is yes, Danielle. If I'm doing follow-up on estimates and I'm doing rehash of service calls, I better know the products that are attached to those quotes and proposals, and be able to upsell or downsell if that's what it takes to close the booked appointment, the book sale. So I have to know how to do that. So different calls, certainly different types of quantities for that. And you don't have the same quantities of those types of funnels.
Right.
You have different quantities. But it all comes back to numbers. If I need to fill the board and my board quota is, call it 15 or 10, multiply that by 10. That's how many calls you should be making.
I think that it's the end goal that you want to be looking at.
It's the end goal that you're looking at, not the beginning of how many do I make. They're thinking, I think most business owners think of it more from a productivity side versus the end goal, which is your utilization and your capacity of your ability to deliver what you're selling.
Absolutely. So how do we balance proactive follow-ups or the process without overwhelming the customer? I know that's a topic that gets brought up a lot too. Like, how many times do I reach out? When do I start annoying them? Should I send the text, the email, the phone call all at the same time? Like there's all these things that happen. So I know we've experienced, we work with people as that kind of outbound inside sales role. So I'll kind of open it up to the group on that. Lynn, if you want to start, Danielle, Vicky, if you want to share
I mean,
experience
I can
too.
just speak to, in the beginning, right? So we're talking 3 years ago now. When we first started really heavily hitting those leads and doing outbound calls for leads, when we had started that whole adventure, we were doing 3 calls on the first day, plus text, plus email. So they were getting up to 5 to 6 touch points in one day. And then the next day it was 2 and 2 and 2. And then the next day it was 1 and 1 and 1. And so I definitely think there's a balance, because that was too much. And the customer would end up, when they did answer, saying, "You've called me a million times, like just stop." Right. So I think that there's definitely a balance. I think you can, the initial contact of, "I'm reaching out to you," absolutely send all 3, try to hit all 3 touch points. But then after that, spread them out. So it's not missed call, voicemail, text message, email, boom, 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 because then they're ignoring you all at one time, right? They're going to ignore all of your stuff at once versus having to ignore your email a few hours later and ignore your text message the next day. And so I think it's really important. And I know that we've got some really great tools and stuff, but it is important to make sure that you separate after that initial attempt and try to hit the best contact method at the best time for that person, right? So if calls aren't working, go more digital. Or if they reached out to you digitally, focus more digital at first and still make calls, because any contact point that you can get is great. But focus a lot more on what the customer seems to respond to. And if you've got the historical data to look back and say, it looks like they normally will text me back if I text them. And this will come with time, obviously, as you grow your customer base, but use the methods that work for that customer. Don't use the tried and true 9 contacts in a day method, because that hits everybody's communication style, but also annoys a significant amount of people.
Well, you know what you bring up, Danielle? So what's our 5th role? It's called AI, right? So what's the AI pro? What's the advantage of using AI in these types of workflows? Speed to lead is one of the best reasons to use AI.
Yes.
The other best reason to use AI is AI can discern what's the preferred channel of communication.
Mm-hmm. Analytical data.
Analytical
100%.
data, absolutely. So if they start with text, they're going to stay in text. If they start with a phone call, it's probably a phone call. And so if it's email, it's email. The other thing that AI is working in our advantage in our solution is that it's going to be able to determine, should this go to a human or should the AI keep it?
Yeah.
That's a novel
Absolutely.
idea. And our solution also is about people and bots, which is all right. So we have bots to do some of the heavy lifting and the speed to lead, but the people side of it is the monitoring and the engagement for stalled out conversations as well as abandoned. So we're going to be there to try to recover what appears not to be moving forward.
Yeah.
So, but that also is changing, I think, what the question was, Amanda, and that is, what does work? And the answer is, what we've seen is that AI is a great engagement tool. It also has a high abandon rate. So you have to have the people involved that can go in and scoop it up, save it, versus let it go somewhere else, because it may be that AI is not actually performing the way that it should. And don't be surprised, it doesn't. So, but most of the time it's good, but there's a lot of times that you can get it confused and consumers get frustrated. You got to know when consumers are going to get frustrated. So that is the 5th role, which is about automation and the support that it can provide for these workflows that are so important to keep the cost of acquisition of leads low.
Yeah. So let's talk about that 5th role, the AI, since it's kind of our conversations led itself there. Danielle, Vicky, I know we implemented AI at CIC. We've learned a lot through it. And so I like to tell the world, we are your best case study, because we took so many calls in regards to AI. And as Lynn was saying, AI is a great tool. It just needs to be used properly. And the term, Lynn, I always hear you talking to us about is you use it with the human in the loop. So while they're getting the data on that, Lynn, do you kind of want to talk about that idea of AI and human in the loop? And
Well, we tend to be as a society, we're all in or all out. And so I see a lot of that kind of happening right now. So we're all in or we're all out. So we're going to all do AI. I am not at all an advocate that you should not consider AI in your business. It's just when and how and why. And
Mm-hmm.
so, even though we see those that tout good results from using AI to capture information for call bookings and things like that, if your demographics are Gen Z and millennial, you probably have a higher rate of acceptance. If you have other good old baby boomers and Gen X's, not so much. They want to talk to people.
I don't
And
even know because I come from the youngest version of the generations at this point. I personally will not use AI for calls. I will use AI and ChatGPT all day long. I will use AI workflows all day long. But when I call something, especially if I'm picking up the phone, pressing the button, calling, I still, as you know, as someone in their 20s, I expect somebody to answer the phone. I don't want to interact with AI. And if I do, it is minimal just to get to the person I need to speak with, right? I don't personally have an interest in using AI for myself, and most consumers feel that way as well. I mean, we've seen it. We have the data on it. And I think even everyone in our group, if you guys were given the choice to talk to someone about your transactions or talk to an AI agent, what are you talking to? The
well, if
person.
I'm calling something, I want to talk to someone.
Exactly.
Right.
If I'm taking the time to call, I want to speak with somebody. I'm intending to speak with
Right.
somebody. And
Right.
I think especially in the trades industry this year specifically, it AI has blown up. It's become huge. Everyone's talking about it. It's a hot ticket. It does this, it does that. And absolutely, it does all the things it says it does. It does answer the call. It does. It is
Mm-hmm.
an immediate response. You do have a huge amount of resource available for you. But the things that I don't see talked about enough, and this is, I get a little passionate about this, so tell me to stop if I get too far into it. But some of the things that you don't see are like the abandon rate with AI and what that truly is. If you gave your customer the choice to speak with a human or stay with AI, what are they going to convert at? What are you going to actually get that stays with AI? Amanda talked about how we did the study ourselves. We made ourselves guinea pigs in June, and we did our best. And our abandon rate with AI was 30%. Our human to staying with AI ratio is at 82% of the customers that were given the choice of working with a person or staying with AI chose to go back to a person versus staying in AI. And it's not because the product itself is wrong. And I think that that's where I don't want to present it as I don't believe in the product of AI. It's the consumer's opinion of AI. They don't want to use it. And there's so much focus on all the great things that it does. And for a business owner, I totally get loving AI. But when you're the customer using it, if your customer doesn't like it at the end of the day, it's not solving any problems for you. We even pulled the numbers of like the amount of people that would hang up and call back, right? So that there's this big phenomenon with AI where if a customer calls in and they hear AI, they'll disconnect, call back again, disconnect, call back again, because they're trying to get to the human and they don't even know how to get it to that point. And so that was 47% of calls had multiple callers come in, especially in the beginning when we first started doing it, because the customers were not expecting to get AI. And if you were to post it to your customer base and do all these things to warn them, you might have a better result. But companies are turning to AI, as a cheaper solution, as something that can answer all the time. And I just don't see enough about the impacts of having AI on. And it's something, that we obviously as a company feel very passionately about. And I know that there's going to be a place where it's amazing, but it also it's got to be focused on more than it is today.
It's
In my
about
opinion.
customer experience. When we started our conversation, what did we talk about? Minimize cost and
Customer
customer
experience.
experience. A great place for AI conversational bots to me are overnight, 24/7 overnight. Um, People that are calling in the middle of the night don't necessarily, um, I think they're going to get somebody to speak to.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think they expect a different result.
Yeah.
However, if they're calling in your core business hours and you're using it for rollover and they know that your office answers the phone, you've just duped them in their opinion. And so it's you have to be strategic in where AI and we're talking specifically right now about voice conversational
Yeah,
AI.
voice AI.
You have to be strategic on where and how and why to implement that type of solution in your business.
And I think another really great thing to use AI for, from like a conversational AI perspective, is to get the customer to the right person, right? Because we talk about, and I don't think we talk about it so much now, but there is this big thought process in the offices where your CSR is your everything, right? So they take calls for your billing department and your install department, and then from there they can transfer the call or take the message, and then someone calls back. But AI is a fantastic tool to route those calls to the right people and get the install questions to the install coordinators and get the tech statuses to the dispatchers. And that is something I think that from like that perspective, AI sounds amazing. So it gives the customer that feel of answer without really being answered, and can understand the customer and get them to the right spot, versus the classic press one, press two options, though those still work great too. But I think that's another really good spot for conversational AI. Just, I would say, if you're going to try it, for anyone that is watching this and is like, I'm going to go do it, try it, but make sure you give your customer the out, at least at first, right? So even if you start as, I'm going to have AI answer 100% of my calls, just give your customers the out and monitor the amount of outs you're getting. If it doesn't improve over 3 months, maybe not the right solution, but at least then you give your customer the chance to make that decision for themselves, and you don't potentially lose a great customer in the long run.
Well, I think with that too, like, how many people here have yelled, "Get me a representative," into the phone? Right? And I do it. This is terrible. I travel a lot. I did it with the airlines all the time because usually my flight got canceled. I had something crazy come up. I am sorry, when something like stressful happened to me, I didn't feel like the bot was going to give me the answer I wanted, because I was special. I had extenuating circumstances, and I'm not one of them.
And I think you came into the conversation with an expected outcome, right? I think that's another big thing, is like, when there's an emergency, like something isn't working or something is tremendously going wrong for you, you're calling something expecting an outcome already. Like, I'm calling a service person to come fix my water heater because it's 5 degrees outside and I have no hot water. I want it fixed. I want to know it's going to be fixed. And so when you have that like predispositioned outcome in your head, and then you call and you hit AI, you're like, no. I need the human to do what I want the human to do. Give me the human. Because I think that people in general can manipulate those conversations.
Think about this, and I know me and Danielle, we've talked about this. It's, I'm having an emergency. I want somebody to make me feel that they understand what I'm going through, and you're going to help me. I don't get that from the AI bot, I want you to feel what I'm feeling right now. And I don't have any hot water, and that is not cool. So, I need that human touch.
Yeah. Isn't it about whether the call has an emotional engagement factor versus something that is just transactional? A request for the types of services that our clients deliver, unless it is something that certainly is not of urgent nature, is emotional. It's emotional to them. It's stressful. It's going to cost them money. It's going to cost them time away from their job. It disconnects their whole home life potentially for a day or two. They're not digging it if they got to talk to a bot. It's just that simple.
Well, I'll give you a real life example. So our heat went out a little bit ago, my parents' heat. And so my dad called and he went through the whole AMAID process, and he thought it was great, like simple and great. And he was all about it. But then he didn't get the time he wanted at the end of that process. And he hung up and he's like, I got to talk to a human now. So he was great with it.
Now I need to get my way.
He's like, no, that's not the right answer.
That's not going to work for me.
Yep. But that's a really, really good example, I think, of I cooperated. Then I got to the end and I didn't get the answer I wanted. So, okay, not cool. I'm going to either call a different company and find somebody who will talk to me, or I'm going to call that one back until I speak to the human that I can negotiate with, right? So
there was nowhere he could say, I want to talk to your supervisor.
Into it, right? So there was at the beginning, and he's like, this is great, going through the process, and then at the end he's like, crap, how do I get back to that choice.
Like, no, go back.
Yeah, no, really, that's very, 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 very. That's so very true. It's the emotional, and bots don't have emotion. They just don't.
And I think
Even though
honestly that even
some of
relates.
them act like they do, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that even honestly relates back to the other roles that we talk about, like booking agents and dispatchers and stuff. It really does come down to give people to the right people, give people to the people that can solve their problem. And it's something as simple as a one call resolution. And we talk about this a lot more on the call center side, I feel like, than it's really focused on the office side of things. But one call resolutions are huge. If I can call you, schedule my appointment, know what's going on, know when I'm expecting somebody, and end that call in one attempt, I am satisfied. I'm not going elsewhere, right?
right.
I've already taken the time out of my day to do it. Now I'm good. I'm confident and comfortable. And so the real focus of these 5 roles of the call center is it's one call resolutions and it's customer satisfaction. Give your people the right people. If you have a brand new person in office that doesn't know how to use your scheduling software, don't make them a booking agent yet. Let them take customer service, hear what customers are asking for. If your dispatcher, I mean, dispatching, we haven't talked about it yet, but that is its own art. Like, it is an art form to be a dispatcher. And so when you have CSRs that would standardly book appointments also participating as a dispatcher, nothing is really being focused on with 100% of the attention that it needs. And then, appointments are being missed or customers aren't being communicated with. And one of the most common calls that we get as a rollover service is, where is my tech? What time is my tech coming? What's the ETA of my technician? I haven't heard from anyone yet. And that's not because nobody is doing their job. It's because you have one person doing the job of 4. And so there's this big disconnect with customer communication because they're trying to juggle so many different things. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is making sure that even if you only have 3 people and your dispatcher also has to be your customer service coordinator for, the short time that you're not big enough to have several, that's okay. Let that happen, but make sure you keep things separated as much as you can to give your customers the resolution that they're looking for and not having to call back, not being frustrated. I want to say, Amanda, you have a really good statistic, and I'm sorry for making you call it out, but there's a statistic on the percentage of customers that will leave a company or if they have a bad experience. I think it's like 98% will look elsewhere or something. I can't remember the numbers, but those kind of things are really important. And it's simple stuff like that. Like, I have to call you back to find out what time somebody's coming, or you said 8 to 10 and it's now 10:30 and I still don't know what's going on.
By the way,
And
a great use of AI is to do an
automated
automation with
confirmation.
AI that
Mhm.
and actually read the dispatch board and also predict on arrivals and do the outbound to say that your tech is on the way. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, we've got setups in these different softwares. We all know that that's a real sensitive area in these softwares because they
Yep.
are they go off at the wrong time. They're being sent when you're not ready for them to be sent. But a real good automation would be, how do you automate that process and stop
Automated
those
reminders.
types of inbound calls, the information of the outbound to say, your technician is delayed 30 minutes. We're calling to let you
Yeah.
know. So
Hey, just a heads up, right?
Let's talk about those other 2 roles, because Danielle, you brought up the customer service role, and this was the one I had to wrap my head around because I'm like, wait, isn't CSR?
I had a really hard time with it at first too. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Service
It was
agent, but
hard for me to explain.
yeah, it's a distinction, and it's important why there's a distinction. So Lynn, as the author of this and this distinction, will you explain to those joining us what the separation is between that booking agent and the customer service agent, and what that role of a customer service agent?
yeah, if I didn't hit on that before, that customer service agent, let's start there, is really about answering the questions with sympathy, empathy, and accuracy around those types of inquiries. Sometimes they're short inquiries. I need a copy of my invoice. I have a question about my bill. That's not typically a short call. I want to pay my bill. My technician's not arrived. When are they going to arrive? I had a problem with my system and I need to talk to a technician. Well, maybe not, right? Not necessarily. Those are all calls that are about those that are already booked jobs in your system. They're already existing in your system. They're already qualified and secured. They may not have all been sold, but you want to be attentive to them with the right attention. A booking agent, on the other hand, is about that new lead that's coming in, that, by the way, is a competitive lead, chances are. If you've got competitors in the marketplace, they're all competing for the same services. A lot of them are. This is about doing it with building trust, building relationship, and engaging them and qualifying them to make them feel like that they have called the right company.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the booking agent's job. They have called the right company. And you don't want them to be moving on to another one because they didn't like the way that a customer service, booking was handled at the beginning. So that to me is the clear distinct. One is about new leads. The other one is about the leads already been secured as a booking. They're either an existing customer and have questions, or they're they're a booked appointment and they've got questions and you want to keep it booked. That's a different role.
Yeah. And Vicki, I know in our call center, we separate that. And you talked about how initially we didn't necessarily have those separate out. What were some of the things you found as we separated the booking calls from everything else?
And kind of like what I touched on earlier, I mean, the morale of the call center itself, right? You have one person not putting on several different hats, all day long, right? Yeah. They're not switching from, one type of call to the other type of call. They're specializing in their own areas. So, the booking agents, we train them on how to be booking agents, right? What type of questions to ask, like Lynn said, the active listening, and they focus on that. Not only, did that, again, make us more efficient in the call center by having those separate roles, I'm going to touch on the morale. It made our morale in the call center so much better. And again, making morale in the call center so much better made all of our numbers go up. So, not only, do we have, happy internal employees, we have happy clients, and the clients have happy customers. So, it was, like I said, a win-win for all of us.
Yes, it was. It was. Mm-hmm. Our whole call demeanor, the calls that we listen to are so much more customer friendly. And by the way, so much more active listening takes place too. I've listened to lots of calls and it was almost like you flipped a switch.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you guys have not yet, anyone that's watched this or is going to watch it later, if you guys have not yet read the 5 Roles of a Call Center, please reach out to myself or Amanda. We're happy to give you another copy of it. It truly is just a structure. It's a structure recommendation for every company that can benefit from having your customer service and your dispatching and everything separated out to give your customers the best experience. And at the end of the day, that's the goal for everybody, right? Is to just give customer service.
And so, Danielle, I'd like to offer, we're happy to do a consultation with any company who would like to say, well, how do I pay for all this? How do I budget all this?
How do I plan for it?
How do I plan for it? We're happy to help talk through your workflows, your goals, and your requirements, and help you figure this out.
Absolutely. And, even if it's not from the how do I organize the call center, right? Your whole side, Lynn, you guys can talk about financials and budgets and making sure everything is ready to go so that they're able to implement this process 100%. It's so cool working for a company like this where we can offer both, right? We don't have to just offer one half of it. We've got both under our belt. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys again so much. If anyone has any questions or wants to learn more about it, you feel free to email myself, Amanda, Lynn, Vicki, anybody. I'll put the emails in the event comments as well. And thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Everyone.